oh my gosh, I've overslept. How am I going to get to the golf course? All of the above. I'm embarrassed. I mean, everything. I'm 31 years old. Finally got my dream job, and I go, I've got to get in my room.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this week's episode of Better Than I Found It. This is Mikkel, the assistant men's golf coach at Baylor. I'm joined by the head coach, Mike McGraw. Coach, how was your week in golf so far?
Well, my week's been great for a couple of reasons. One, we got our players back on campus, which has been something every coach in the country has been looking forward to. Get the players back, get ready for a fall season, or at least get the school year started. So we're excited about that. But another thing that was kind of a good bonus for my week was getting to watch the BMW Championship on television, played at what I think is one of the great golf courses in the United States, and certainly one of the best golf courses we ever see in college golf, and that is Olympia Fields. Just really enjoyed seeing it on television. Been telling people for years and years how great this golf course is, and it showed very well on national television, and it gave the best players in the world all they wanted this week. So really great.
And this is, I guess, a little teaser to the conversation today, but I'll ask you the same question you asked Jay Seawell. We've had 2 weeks in a row on the PGA Tour. Dustin Johnson won at 30 under, and this week the playoff ended at 4 under par. Which is your favorite of the two?
Well, I'm not going to ride the fence here, but I would say anything that's exciting is my favorite. And so it can be exciting at 4 under par. It could be exciting at 30 under par. I do like seeing pro golfers make birdies, but I also like seeing pro golfers struggle. I like seeing how they manage troubling situations. I like seeing how they manage just difficult times on a golf course. So if I had a choice, it would still be a U.S. Open setup like we saw at Olympia Fields.
And I think all the listeners can agree, it makes it more fun to watch golf on TV when you've been there yourself and competed at that course, which I got the chance to my senior year, your first year at Olympia Fields. And you've been taking the team back ever since. So it was a cool week for our guys to watch on TV, a golf course they know very well. What is your favorite Olympia Fields memory from your coaching so far?
Well, my favorite memory would be two memories. One, when I was at Oklahoma State and we won back in 2007. We won the team title, and then again when we won last year as a Baylor Bear coach. So the only coach that's been to all 15 Olympia Fields Fighting Illini collegiates, and even Mike Small, the host coach, Mike will tell you, one year he went to England to represent the United States in the PGA Club Pro matches, the Ryder Cup between our PGA Club Pros and theirs, and he had to miss 1 year. So I've been there every year. And my best two memories are both teams that won the title, once at Oklahoma State and then once at Baylor.
That's awesome. So you're beating Mike Small in appearances at the Fighting Illini. That's a good.
Just appearances, that's it.
Yeah. Well, we have started an Instagram page, and the Instagram page handle is Better Than I Found It Podcast. We'd love for you guys to go follow there. We're going to keep updates on new episodes coming out, maybe some contests from time to time. Please go follow us. We'd really appreciate it. The feedback so far has been incredible, so please keep it coming. We would love for you guys to go rate us in the podcast feed that you're listening to, and also write a review. That really helps us out. If you could write a few words of what you enjoy about the podcast, maybe your favorite episode. Obviously, as always, please subscribe to the podcast. We're going to drop weekly episodes, so just stay up to date on us. Coach, today's podcast episode, good friend of yours, Jay Seawell. What can you share about Jay before we hear from himself?
Well, a couple of things. One, he and I have a very special relationship. We've been competitors for many, many years. We've also been great, very close friends for a long, long time as well. One thing Jay brings to the table is the greatest amount of energy of any coach in college golf. I think any coach in NCAA athletics. Jay has an amazing passion for helping young men. He's got a heart like you can't believe. And when you talk to Jay, you understand somebody who really loves what he's doing and he's good at what he does. So he's inspired me for 15 years or almost 20 years now as a fellow coach and colleague, but I think he'll inspire all the listeners today. Here now is the conversation with Jay Seawell. Hey, Jay Seawell.
Hey, Coach McGraw. Mike, how you doing?
Fine. How you doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing nice out here in a beautiful, hot, humid day here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm excited to be talking with you today for sure.
Something tells me you're not in the office. You must be in quarantine.
I am. I'm waiting on a test back from this afternoon. You know, this crazy new world we live in. So I had to be tested yesterday. So I'm outside talking with you. I'll go back upstairs after we talk. So if you want to talk as long as you want to today, I would appreciate that so I can stay outside longer.
Well, last time I checked, getting to know you through the years, you don't have any problems talking, Jay, do you?
No. If anything, you might want to slow me down sometime today. Unfortunately, my mother had to send me outside a lot of times.
I wouldn't dare do that. I wouldn't dare do that. But you know what? It kind of reminds me, getting to know you through the years has been my pleasure, my honor, and a lot of fun. But, you know, we're kind of similar guys. We come from, even though I think we're different in a ton of ways, but we come from similar backgrounds. I mean, we're both the sons of PGA golf professionals. And I think anybody who's been the son of a golf professional, that's a certain fraternity right there.
Yeah, it really is. You know, I think we do have many bonds together, and I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of them. But I think it's probably is big a bond as I think me and you have. We see golf the same way. Our fathers were pros. They were old school. They did everything. You know, the pro shop, the teaching, you know, the member relations, the selling of sandwiches and beer, and all the things that a pro would do back in the older days. And so I think we, you know, even though I'm way younger than you, and sorry, unbelievable. I know it. Since I'm younger than you, but we did grow up in the same, with this, our eyes seeing the same things, how our dads interacted in the game and their love and passion of the game. And so I think it's probably our biggest bond. And I think it's the thing that I like the most about you, is how you see the game. It's exactly how I see the game. And I think that's a credit to our fathers as much as anything.
Well, I think both of our dads taught us the game from a similar point of view because they were from the old school, but they also taught us that, you know, there's the one thing they both taught us was hard work. I think that it's just like, you can't really get around that part. That's not negotiable for us in this profession, or really anybody that wants to succeed at a high level. My dad taught me that for sure.
Yeah. I think, you know, like you said, there were many days that we were working before the sun came up and when the sun went down with carts and getting ready for tournaments. And, you know, as an impressionable 15-year-old or a 10-year-old or wherever we were while we were, you know, my dad, the one part I'm very thankful for in my life is how my dad incorporated us into that, my entire family. I have 2 brothers and a sister. My mother ran the shop. And so, you know, it was his way of going, because he worked so hard, it was his way of finding a way to have a family, to be honest with you. If not, because like you said, there are many nights we probably had supper at 10 o'clock at night. And so I think people think of golf as a glamorous game, and it is, but I think all the way, even to the good player, the professionals, and I tell our guys, in the dirt is the only way where you find it. And yes, our dad did that. I know I saw my dad do that, and he taught us that. And it's something I'm very proud of. My wife mentions it all the time. She thinks it's one of the best qualities my dad taught my entire family was the value of work.
Yeah, well, my dad did the same. We had 7 kids in our family, so we had a little bit bigger family, but all of them got started in golf some way or another, and most of them were all a part of the golf business, because if you had a son or a daughter helping you in the business, you know, it was a lot, I don't know, they had a lot more invested in it, if you would. So, but that was great. You know, the other thing that I think we sort of have a little bit of a connection to is kind of our coaching career, even though we haven't been in the same places all the time. You know, you started as a junior college coach when I was a high school coach. So there's a lot of similarities there. Tell me a little bit about your junior college experience. I know the accommodations were quite amazing.
Absolutely. You know, and the part I think I admire most about you, and something I am proud of personally, I don't talk about it much, is I think we both know how high the mountain is. And And I'm very proud of that. And so, yeah, when I first got out of college, you know, I may back up a little bit. My dad taught me the love of coaching when I was a 15-year-old kid. We were coaching. I can tell you when I wanted to be a coach, and I've listened to your podcast, and a little bit different than you. I did grow up dreaming, making putts for the Masters or winning them, and we did all that. But there was always this thing inside of me that really wanted to coach. And I can tell you when the fire really got lit. I was 15 years old, and my dad, we were coaching 8 and under soccer, believe it or not. My mom and my dad would gather around the table, and we had played in the regular season. Now we were in the tournament. We made it to the final, but we were playing a team that beat us 7-1. And it really should have been 15-1. I can remember that they had a guy on this team who could fly, and he kicked it all over the place. I don't even know anything about soccer. I'm 15 years old, but I wanted to coach, and my mother's on the sideline with me because they wouldn't let a 15-year-old do it. And so that being said, my dad goes, son, if you if you do the exact same thing, you're going to lose. He goes, what a great coach does is he finds a way for his team to win. And the way you do that is you go out of the box. So we sat up at night for 2 or 3 hours and got pieces of paper how we were going to design this is 8 years old now. Think about this now. So we're there, and we're just talking, and so we devised a plan, and believe it or not, you know, it worked, and we won. My brother, and it doesn't matter what the plan was, but at the end, my brother kicked the winning goal with about a minute left at 8 years old, and we won the championship. That being said, from that moment on, that night before is what stoked the fire. So when I got out of school and I played golf at South Carolina, I played like 2 or 3 mini tour events. And that was what, and I just, my heart wasn't in it. And I remember calling Larry Penley, and he just goes, Jay, back then they didn't have assistants. I said, I'd work for free, as you would. And he said, well, Anderson Junior College is getting a new coach. And so I was just called up the AD, and he goes, do you want it? There wasn't a long line to become the AD. I mean, the golf coach at Anderson Junior College, that's for sure. And so I said, I would love it. And they said, well, we pay $7,500. I said, I'll take it.
I'll take that.
Yeah. And so that started my career. And it was an incredible time. Was broke. And then I got married about a year after that. And Steph and I moved into a dormitory, and,
by the way, you outkicked your punt coverage right there, Jay.
Thank you. I am a good punter, by the way. I can go ahead and let you know. Ray Guy has nothing on me for the older generation. And so it was it was 6 years there, working at Anderson, and it still some of the best times of my life, because I didn't know what I was doing. I just got in the van. I mean, I was 23 years old, and so I was really only a few years older than a couple of the players. And so, it was one of the cool stories, we were at Olympia Fields last year. I guess it was at the USAM, and the first player I ever recruited, Matt Blair, who's a women's coach in Chicago now, I don't know the school, came up to me, and I hugged his neck. And I mean, my gosh, he's almost 50 years old. I mean, if you think about it, I'm 53, but just some cool stories about being a JUCO coach, because I'll be honest, it was as fun as it is coaching at Alabama.
Wow. That's saying a lot right there.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, first, we're packing. I don't even remember what we drove. I guess it was those 12-passenger, 15-passenger vans, and we didn't even know we were going. I mean, my goodness, I look back at old pictures. We didn't have any money for clothes, so I remember going to a manufacturer, and they gave us a shirt, and we had two shirts. We all wear our own shorts. So there's team pictures, and some people have on, you say the word khaki, there's 47 colors of khaki, if you believe it or not. And all of our team photos are in olive khaki, stone khaki, regular khaki. And I know you know what stone is, but, and so we all show up, and we look like a high school golf team, but there's some great memories in that for sure.
Well, speaking of a high school golf team, you had to go out and scrounge to get shirts. Well, we had to do a bake sale, 2 car washes, and 2 garage sales to get a golf bag. It's like, man, that was a challenge, but we did it. And that was the part that I loved about coaching high school golf, is you just dug it out of the ground, kind of like your dad and my dad taught us to do. So.
Yeah, and I think the roots of, I think if we wouldn't have done that, I don't think we would appreciate where we are now. I mean, you're at Baylor University. I'm at Alabama, University of Alabama, and getting a chance to coach some of the 0.1% of great golfers. But, and I think sometimes that can become, if you're not careful, you can take it for granted. And then so I always kind of go back to the young kids that, we actually had a few kids in our junior college make it to, to the Corn Fair. We never had any kids make it to the Pro Tour, but we had some guys make it to the web. It was the Nike.com at that time, whatever all those were. Those are the times that I still rely upon today, because I always look at that guy and always go backwards. Look at that guy. He loved getting in the dirt with people. And I think that's what a coach is. A coach is somebody who's willing to get in the dirt and help.
I love it. I love it. One of the things you learned as a young boy playing baseball was something you still do today that I absolutely love. Talk to him about when you guys have the best round or you win a tournament. What do you guys do?
Oh, we get a milkshake. That's what we do.
All right.
The milkshake thing is becoming a little bit, what do you call it? Legendary over here, whatever you want to call it, because people don't really know the story. I just always say when we win, we have a milkshake. And when you were here with me, we won 26 rounds in an entire year, which is just stupid. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm gaining weight. You have a high metabolism, so you're not gaining any weight, of course, but I am. But the idea goes back to when I was in the 10 and under basketball. It was for Eastland Baptist Church in Greenville, South Carolina, and I can remember it like it's yesterday. Coach Reed was our basketball coach. And believe it or not, he still was he's still an influence, even though I could hardly remember anything. And I can remember his voice. Now, this is back in the day when you could yell at people. Now you have to come across tenderly and, as 10-year-olds. If there were any parents in that gym hearing him yell now, oh my gosh, he'd be thrown in jail. But Seawell, get your eyes off the ball. Look up when you dribble. And I mean, I could hear that guy. But we played a game and we won. He goes, and we would all go and he would buy us. We'd go to the local McDonald's and he goes, I'm buying everybody a milkshake. I said, congrats, you worked hard. Let's enjoy what winning feels like. And he goes, to me, a milkshake is the best way and satisfying. So I'm a 9-year-old kid and I'm like, yeah. So I ordered a chocolate milkshake and he just looked at me one time. He goes, tastes like a winner, doesn't it? And so it stuck in me. And so anytime our team or somebody I pull for does something, it gives me a great excuse to get a chocolate milkshake because it tastes like a winner.
I absolutely love that. And I obviously loved it 26 times when I was in Alabama. But, so those are the things you remember for being young. My best experiences actually as a coach probably came from coaching high school golf in Edmond, Oklahoma. So I know exactly what you're talking about there. But, it wasn't long after your time at Anderson that you ended up getting a Division I job at Augusta State. So can you tell us a little bit about that? I really, really enjoy a couple of things that happened to you there.
Yeah, it was, I'd interviewed actually before when Jim Kelson got it. And so so I was 30 years old and interviewed again when Jim got the Tennessee job. And I can remember the day, the moment. I'm not like you with numbers or what exactly time it was or what date it was, but I can remember when Clint Bryant called me and just said, I'd like for you to be my golf coach. And I can remember crying because it was my dream. And so I and there were many prayers in that. And I had really become content that I'll just be at Anderson College the rest of my life. And I was going to be fine with that. And I just remember him calling me and doing that. And I said yes. I didn't ask how much I was making. And I never asked Steph, what did she think? I mean, literally, it's the only time in my life I've actually just selfishly said, we going. And so I looked at her, I said, and she goes, okay, I guess we're going. And so I had to call him back about an hour later and said, by the way, how much money am I making? And he goes, you're making $37,000 a year. And you're also the marketing director. And I went, in Augusta State, I went, yes, I'll take it. It's a huge raise. So, and so it was great. And so I went to a program that had been established though. They'd been to the NCAAs. And I was very fortunate. It was one of the few teams early that had done international guys. And so I had some international ties because of the things that were there before me. And, Jamie Elson, who played for me, we had 2 Walker Cuppers, and then eventually one of those Walker Cups became a Ryder Cupper. But it to this day was a great thing. But I remember, to give you an idea. So here, I'm sorry if I go down a road, and forgive me, I kind of go this way sometimes. But I just remembered. Well, I didn't just remember. Sometimes I don't want to tell this story, but I'll tell it to you since you're my friend. I did tell it to an entire Hall of Fame group, so I'm okay with it. But I finally got my job at Augusta. And so here we are with all these great players and my chance to be a D1 coach. And, man, I've dreamed my whole life. And, man, I'm passionate. And so I got there. And they didn't hire me till August 1st. And so I didn't even get down there till the middle of August. And so, excuse me, everything had been done, the schedule, all the clothes, everything. I got there. And so I got there basically the first day of practice. And so 2 weeks later, I don't even know who we got or whatever. And so we qualify the best you can, but you know, all that kind of stuff. So we're leaving. But our first road trip is to go up to the Rhode Island tournament. You probably remember it. What's the name of that? Remember old Tom Drennan's tournament?
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, but no. Yeah.
Adams Cup. It was the Adams Cup. Okay, so up there they give you lobster, by the way. My gosh, you would have killed it up there. And so, we went up to the Adams Cup. So we're going to fly to Rhode Island, and then from Rhode Island we were going to go down to Durham and play in Duke's tournament back-to-back day, literally back-to-back. We were not coming home. Somebody had done this schedule. And so we played the Adams Cup. We had some rain delays, and so we spent the night, and we had to get to Providence. So we got up around 3:30 to get a 6 o'clock flight or whatever it was to get to Durham. And so we fly down to Durham. That being said, we get down there. So everybody's, just completely trashed. We're just so tired and everything. And so it's the night of the practice round, before the practice round. And I just pass out. And we are staying, and it's ironclad. It's one of the great hotel rooms of all time. It had 3-inch thick curtains and all, and I shut them. And I think I fell asleep at 8 o'clock. And the next thing I remember and wake up to is a door knock. And so I walk out there. And so, back in the day, this may be a little TMI. You may have to edit this out, but that's fine. I sleep in my briefs and a t-shirt. That's what I wear. So I'm in my underwear and a pair of back then. I'm cooler now. I wear boxer briefs now. But back then I didn't. I wore tighty whities. And so I open the door, and it's my entire team with their bag on their shoulder. And I literally, my hair, it was back when I had hair. It's sticking straight up. And I don't even know what day it is. And I go, oh my gosh, what time is it? They go, Coach, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, which, whatever. And we were supposed to, we were going to leave at 7 to go do the practice round. And so I just ran to the room, got some cash from, and gave a guy on our team the cash and gave him the keys. And I walked him to the elevator, didn't even care.
Wait, Jay, you gave them the keys to the van?
Oh, yes. We're going all the way. This is my second tournament at my D1
Come on,
school.
Jay.
Oh, yeah. So we're there, and second road trip. And so we're going, and so I walk them to the elevator, and they go down, and they're laughing, of course, and this is great. But I think they kind of understood because of how hard it was to get to Durham that day, the night before. That being said, is we go down, and so I turn, and they get in the elevator, and they go down. Now, you got to remember, there's no such thing as a cell phone. This is way before anybody you had bag phones, but nobody had a cell phone. So they went, and so I walked back to my room on the 7th floor of the Hilton. Those doors, when you open them, they shut right behind you. I don't know if you knew that or not, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
But, they, and all that. Well, I didn't take the key with me in my tighty whities when I went back. And so now it's 7 in the morning, and there's no maid service. So there's nobody to at least, to find a way to get a key or anything. So I'm now outside my door panicking. Oh my gosh, I've overslept. How am I going to get to the golf course? All of the above. I'm embarrassed. Everything. I'm 31 years old. Finally got my dream job, and I go, I've got to get in my room. And so I go, and whatever reason, it turned into a 007 moment there. And so I went down the stairwell, and I'd hear somebody get out of the stairwell, and I'd run up a stairwell, and I'd run down. And I finally made it to the ground floor. And here I am at the lobby. And the Lord is so good on how to put everything. When I got to the stairwell, though, directly across the hall was the swimming pool. I said, yes, they're going to have towels in there. That's all I needed. I just needed some type of cover up to go to get a key. I just didn't want to walk up at 7 o'clock in the morning. This is a big hotel. It's not a Hampton Inn. This is a 10-story. They've got weddings going on. There's people everywhere. And so I jumped across the hall into the swimming pool, And believe it or not, there's not a towel to be found. And now they got glass windows, and all I see is I can remember Richard Seitz and his team walking by, and other teams with their bags walking by, and I am literally hiding in a palm tree. I mean, I am wrapped around a palm tree, and I am just hiding that nobody sees me, because I am literally, I feel naked, even though I've got a T-shirt on and briefs on. And I finally saw a towel, and it was in the middle of the pool. Literally, it was in the middle of the pool. And so I jumped in the pool, got this towel that is so wet, and I was so in a hurry and didn't even think about wringing it out or whatever. I just put it around my body, and I leave, and I'm passing teams. Yeah, I got me a nice swim in this morning before we have a practice round and all this stuff. And behind me, the water is just flowing. I look like, I mean, I'm just leaving a puddle of a lake behind me all the way to the front desk. And so, and I told that story at the Hall of Fame because everybody, you know, it's a moment in time where people say nice things about you, but that's coaching to me. And that's, I'm sorry, it's a long story, but that's kind of what happened at Augusta.
Well, I got to say that it didn't affect your time at Augusta. You built a really good team there. And when you left in 2002, you handed off to Josh Gregory, really a great team, didn't you?
I did. Well, and thank you. We were ranked number 2 in the country. And, you know, in today's world, how we played for national championships, I really believe that could have been some national championship teams. We were a little bit in the weak part at 5 just because it was Augusta State. But our first 4 guys were dudes. I mean, they could play. And, you know, we finished 5th at Ohio State. And we finished 7th at Ohio State. No, 5th at Ohio State and 7th at Duke. And in today's world, we would have played in a match play. We'd have been in the Final 8, you know. And I had guys, All-American, you know, Oliver Wilson and Jamie Elson. Those guys were on Walker Cup winning teams and Ryder Cup teams and stuff. And so I feel really good about those teams because a lot of those guys had a chance to go somewhere else, bigger, better, whatever you want by name, and they chose to come and they built something that I think is very special down the road. It was different players and a different coach, and he deserves all the credit. But I think it was at least the foundation of the Augusta State run in 2010 and 11.
Yeah, that was I remember that very well. I was the assistant to Mike Holder at Oklahoma State when you were doing those very things, and it was kind of shocking to all of us that you had actually built a program that good, that quick. It's pretty amazing.
Well, thank you.
Then you ended up going, getting the job at the University of Alabama. You're still there, but it was a summer, late summer of 2002. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So you took over a team that needed a little rebuilding, I think, probably.
I did, yeah, and it's still to this day. I look back on it, and you know, and I know our faith is very important to both of us, and I look back, and it was probably one of the biggest, hardest, but then in the term most satisfying decisions I've ever made. To leave, I mean, I had drank the Kool-Aid that I mixed with our players, and to this day, I still will cry sometimes if I think about the guys that I left at Augusta State. As you know, coaching is really about the relationships with the kids. I mean, it really is. Trophies come and go, and they'll come around, you know, one day and throw our trophies in a closet, and somebody else will start something and do their own thing, and I get that, and so I'm cool with that. But the kids are what make it so good, and I just remember that was the hardest thing, and I cried for probably a year, even while I was here. But in the end, we raised our family here, and this has become home to our children. And the Lord, even in that time, provided a great way, and many things have happened. You know, we've done some good things golf-wise, but there are so many other things that I loved about being here. And really, you know, you being here was one of my favorite times of my life. I mean, it really is as cool a year. I know we'll probably get to that, but, you know, those are the things that I cherish more than anything. You know, a chance to work with you for a year, you know, get a chance to come alongside people that, you know, people, it's really cool. People see Justin Thomas a certain way. I think as a coach, we see our players a different way than what TV portrays or the people who pull for them.
Agreed.
Because we know them. And so those are the cool things that's happened while we've been at Alabama, is, you know, we got to come alongside some special kids and get to be alongside them. And so I'm thankful for our time here. I'm really more thankful for my own children, what it's done for their lives and being here in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, well, speaking of your children, Brooke and Jackson and Lauren, I mean, and obviously Stephanie, and you have raised those 3 children right there in Tuscaloosa. But, you know, I was going to mention that that was one of the things I can remember on the recruiting trip. I took Pam down
Yes.
because she had to see Tuscaloosa. But let's back up just a little bit before that. So I got let go at Oklahoma State, and 45 minutes after that was announced online, you called me. And I just want you to tell, I want you to tell me exactly what you told me on that phone when you offered me the job to come work with you at Alabama. Tell me, see if you remember.
Well, I don't. You're going to be better at the exact things because you do have one of those kind of memories, and mine is blurred and it sometimes comes out. But I remember being in the car, and I remember I was on the way from or to Mississippi. I cannot remember to go recruit, and so I was recruiting, and I was in the car, and as soon as it became whatever official, it wasn't. I mean, literally, I called you within a minute. As soon as I knew, I called you in a minute. And I just, I remember going, wow. And I think I called twice. I didn't call, I called selfishly because you're such a great coach. And I knew that you would be an incredible asset for the guys that were on this team. We were defending national champions a month ago. Within 2 weeks, we just won the national championship. And so, and it's funny how the Lord works also. Rob had told me that day also that he was going to go to Purdue. The day it officially came, your thing was the day he officially told me I'm going to go to Purdue. And so within a minute, I said, I'm going to call my friend Mike. And I called you, and I just remember, I said, Mike, I got something for you. It's going to sound crazy. And I said, and it's not anything other than I believe it could be something special. And I do. And I would love for you to come to Alabama and help these guys in their journey. And I'm not sure quite what I said, but I said, but I do want one thing. I said, and first I think I called, said first I think how sorry I was for you, because we do have a very great friendship. I do consider you a close friendship. And so I just said, I just think you could be an incredible asset here. But I did say I want one thing. I want the guy, the 7th grade history teacher or math teacher. Where were you? History?
It was history.
Yeah, history. And I said, I want the 7th grade history teacher. I said, I really don't need Mike McGraw, the OSU guy that I had seen over the last few years. And by the way, real quick, I don't want to digress. How you handled that and how you have handled it ever since and how you've handled that has taught me so much in life. I know I know why your players love you. Because you teach so much, and your graciousness in that has been phenomenal. And your graciousness on the phone was phenomenal. It was, so I can tell people who listen at Baylor it's real. That was real. You were hurting. I mean, it was that day that you literally, you were hurt. You were wounded, not a young guy, but you were wounded. But I just wanted you to come and be part of something with me. And you tell me your version, because that's my version, because I just wanted you to be here. First, you were my friend. Second, I'm stupid if I don't ask the best coach in the country to come be part of what we're doing.
Well,
and so,
I appreciate you saying that. And my version is very nearly the same as yours. But the two things that struck me, one was that you said, come work with me. You didn't say for me. And you never introduced me as your assistant coach for an entire year. So that immediately struck me. And number two, you'd given this a lot of thought, that you wanted me to come work with you, but not that wounded soul. You wanted the guy who was a young coach with passion and love for the game and love for helping. You wanted that. And
yes.
You want to make sure that guy showed up in Tuscaloosa. And so both of those things together made me say yes immediately. It didn't even take me 2 seconds to say yes. So
yeah, you said roll tide, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I said roll tide. So I learned to say that. I said that quite often during our year together, for sure.
Real quick, one thing I know is, you may talk, one of my favorite, when you finally got there, but first, you also about kicked your coverage in so many ways with Miss Pam. And I do remember you said, well, you're going to have to convince Pam. And so that's probably one of my hardest recruiting trips. We've recruited some pretty good dudes.
Okay, you've been doing all the talking. Let me tell the people what happened on that trip.
Please tell me about that trip.
It's Friday that you've offered me the job. I said yes immediately. I got off the phone with you and said, Pam, we're going to Tuscaloosa. She said, what? What are you talking about? But I said, Jay's got a flight for us already. I'm sure Monday or Tuesday we'll fly down there. And so we pull into the parking lot at the arena where your office was on campus.
Right.
We pull in the parking lot, and you're already walking down the main steps. And you're walking over toward us. You've seen us pull up because your window of your office overlooked that parking lot. And I'm walking straight towards you, getting ready to give you a big bear hug, and you make a beeline for Pam. Just straight forward. Give Pam a big hug. Oh, Pam, it's so wonderful to have you here in Tuscaloosa. Stephanie and I are going to take you out to the Cypress Inn tonight for dinner, and she's got all these realtors lined out. We've got your whole weekend planned here. It's great. It's just so nice to have you in Tuscaloosa. And I thought, wait a second, it's not me. I'm the one that's coming to work here. You knew exactly what you had to do. And that's why you're a better recruiter than I am, because you recruited Pam that very moment. I had no chance.
Well, I wanted Pam. We got you, but that's fine. I just wanted Pam for a lot of reasons. But yeah, you're right. You got to make Mama happy. You know that. If Mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And it really was the first time for me to get a chance to know her. Mm-hmm. And I knew she was hurt too, for a lot of reasons. And I said, we got to find a way that this is going to be a place that the Lord can use for her also in her hurt. And so it's one of my favorite weekends. And like I said, her time here is as much as your time here. I already knew you, but I really getting to know her through all this, and her love for you, for animals, for people, and for the kids and all was so enlightening. So yes, that was my hardest recruiting trip. You think Whitsitt was hard? Heck no. It was Pam McGraw.
You won her over that very moment. She thinks you're a good guy, and I don't know how to change your mind.
I fooled her, didn't I? I fooled her too, didn't I?
You really did. But if I could think of just some snapshots of that year in Alabama, we could talk for 2 hours. I'm not going to do that, but I will say this: you had one of the greatest freshmen in the history of college golf on campus, a kid named Robbie Shelton, who's playing the PGA Tour right now. And you run off the second week I'm on campus. You run off with 4 Walker Cuppers to the Walker Cup. You had Justin Thomas, you had Corey Whitsitt, you had Bobby Wyatt, and you had Gavin Moynihan, who was also an incoming freshman. You had 4 Walker Cuppers, and you just thought, I'll go prance around at the Walker Cup and let everybody know how good I am, and I'll keep Mike McGraw back there. He'll run qualifying. You know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I figured you could handle it.
Well, that was nice of you. And so we're doing this qualifying for, I think we were playing for
Olympia Field. We're playing for 1.
No, 1 spot. I'm sorry, 1 spot.
Because all 4 of the Walker Cuppers were exempt.
Trey shot 22 under par. The Walker Cuppers are exempt. We're playing for 1 spot. Going into the last round of qualifying, you're at the Walker Cup, and Robbie is not. He's not winning. He's losing.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, how could you not put this guy on the van? So I called you that night. He says, how's qualifying going? I said, well, Jay, you got a problem. Robbie Shelton might not make this trip. He said, oh, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. I said, well, I'm not going on the trip without him. So you need to figure out a way to get him on that van.
Well, it is. I love it, and so I love, and you know how this is, and we always want our guys when they come in to prove why they're in the van. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Shelton was 7 back. It's not like he was 1 back.
No, he was 7 back.
He was 7 back, and you're calling, you going, and I mean, the one thing I love about you is you say what you mean and you mean what you say. There's no hidden agenda in it. I mean, and you go, Coach, I didn't come here to not take our best team. I want to win. And let's be honest, Orange was going to be there, and it was going to be your first chance to see Orange.
That's right.
And I mean, let's be honest about it. And so there's a little competitive rascal in you. And so we were there, and I was like, well, Robbie will be fine. If he doesn't make it, he's got a long career here. And he goes, no. He needs to go. And all I told him, I said, well, you need to find a way to get him to catch up 7 shots, because the only way he's going is if he catches up 7 shots. And you kept telling me, that's not what I need to hear from you. And then I remember the argument on the phone, and I'm going, okay. And to this day, there is folklore that thinks that you had the scorecard and that you made some pencil marks here and there and all that kind of stuff. But he shot
Wait. He shot a bogey-free 7 under 65. We took him to Olympia Fields, and he won his first college golf tournament. Now
and we won. That's a fact, and we won. But I have no, and I didn't see the 65. But you called me going, and I think that Robbie Prater, who he took, and we make fun. Prater goes, y'all weren't even pulling for me. And I go, no, we weren't, Prater. We love you, man. But we were definitely not pulling for you to go. You just shot 78 or worse at Olympia Fields every round. And I kid with that, and Robbie knows I love him. But I remember you calling me going, well, he did it. It was 65, and Prater Bug 3-putted the last hole, and Shelton's in the van. And I went, well, good for you, Mike. There we go. You're right.
I don't want Robbie Prater to think I don't love him. I love him like a son, but Robbie Shelton was a little bit better player at the time.
No, we love all of our players the same, but as a coach, we love 68 better than 75s. Let's just be honest about it.
Let's be honest. So, thinking about that showed you, I mean, we obviously had different personalities.
Yes.
So I'm OCD. Okay, yes. And you're probably what, ADD?
I'm way on the other side. Yes, I probably need to be medicated.
Could you please do that eventually?
Maybe I should have done it before our talk today. I probably should have been medicated.
Well, you had too many cups of coffee, but I will say this, that most people would think, how could this work? And Bobby White, I remember, Bobby had real exception, did not like the fact that you hired me. Could you just hit on that? Because
yeah.
The fact that Bobby and I became so close before the year was over, but boy, it didn't start that way.
No, and I hired you immediately. And it's funny, I called all our players, and of course Corey, who thinks the world of you through the recruiting process, was so excited. I mean, he almost cried. He said, "Coach, this is like a godsend. We're going to get Mike. I get to play for Mike McGraw because I kind of wanted to," and so and all that. And then I called Bobby White, and he told me, he goes, "Coach, I think this is the worst decision you've made." I mean, Bobby, there's one thing about Bobby. You're going to get exactly what he means. And he goes, I'm not a real big fan of Coach McGraw. And, whatever reason, and I think, like I said, I think he may have seen something or misinterpreted something while you were under your tough times at OSU. It doesn't matter or whatever, but he just was like, I was actually blown away. I mean, he wasn't in the middle on this. It was, I'll endure this kind of mindset. I'm coming back from my senior year, but I'm not a real big fan of this hire. I think it's a bad thing. And so I said, Bobby, he's my friend. I can promise you this. He's one of the quality people of the whole world. He didn't know you, of course. He had a glimpse of, of something or a perception or something. And he didn't really, he saw you as the OSU coach Oklahoma State's great, but it does have a perception about it. It doesn't matter if that's right or wrong. There's a perception, and Bobby had it. And so it's my favorite thing of the year from watching. Yeah, there's a lot of favorites. One of my favorite things to watch the ice of Bobby melt and y'all become like Legos. And I think that's who you are. You didn't try to make him like you, because I told you, I said, Bobby's not real wild. You're probably not walking with Bobby. And so, and the watch, and it didn't take long. I would say probably 2 months at the most. I would probably say sometime in late September, October. And to watch him accept you, not as a coach, he was respectful, but to accept you and to become a Mike McGraw fan and to love you as a coach was a beautiful thing to happen as a witness, as a friend and a coach.
Well, it's certainly one of my favorite memories from being in Tuscaloosa. I mean, I had tons, obviously, great times. But what you just hit on is an amazing thing I want to point out is we were different on the opposite ends of the spectrum as far as personalities. And I didn't try to be you, and you didn't try to be me. We didn't try to be anything like each other. And that speaks to why it's so important for young coaches to be authentic. It doesn't matter where you are, where you're coaching or whatever. If you don't have authenticity about who you are, you're not going to be as effective as a coach.
No, you're really not. And I think it's why you're so successful. I think, Coach Saban's a dear friend, and has become a friend. And, everybody wants to be like him. He has a method. He has the word process, and you're starting to hear the word process all over all over coaching circles. And there's nothing wrong with that. We should learn and copy and find ways to incorporate great ideas that others have, because the majority of what we do is not, we're not inventing something new. We're just regurgitating something somebody else had done before us. But as you said, the key is, how do you make it yourself? Because that's why Bobby fell in love with you. It wasn't why Bobby accepted you as a coach. He didn't because you were like nice to him and going, Bobby, how can I make you my friend? You were just Mike McGraw every single day. And you do it in a way that makes you special, and why you're special and all that is special. And I agree. Everybody thinks they're supposed to act this way or that way or this way. What you ought to do is you ought to have a foundation of what the game teaches, and what is that from a gentleman to how we handle this, because our game is so special. But then you ought to incorporate it into yourself. Who are you? It's why Lee Trevino was incredible. I mean, he was an incredible player because he was authentic to who he was. And Jack Nicklaus was great because he was authentic to who he was. If Lee Trevino tried to become Jack Nicklaus, he would have been awful. And it's why I think he could beat Jack Nicklaus. And if you asked him, he felt like he could beat Nicklaus because he was authentic in the game. And so in coaching, and anytime we should be who you are. The Lord has made us who we are, how we are in our personality. There's nothing wrong with that. We shouldn't try to change that, because then we're trying to change the design of the designer. So if we're designed this way, how then do we run with this, with the philosophies of coaching and the foundation of what the game teaches?
I love that. And it also speaks to the other point I wanted to make with this. I think I saw you cry on about 10 occasions that year. That is no way an indictment of your coaching. It's actually, I want to lift you up with that, because I saw it firsthand. You were so passionate. You loved the guys so much, and you cared so much about them as people that occasionally your emotions just came out, and you weren't afraid to show them that. And that was a great example for me, because if anything, I've got those same emotions. I just don't let them out as often. I'm a little more stoic than you are, but I have let them out occasionally. And I've let them out a couple times here at Baylor, because it's like, that's letting them know it's that important, guys. So speak to that, if you would. I mean, that to me is amazing.
Well, I don't know, if I'm authentic to anything, it is to that. I just, I think if you care deeply about something, it's something that will make some people makes their legs shake when they talk or whatever. They can't sit still. If it means something, you can't sit still. And as you said, I'm ADD, and I'm built a certain way, and so if something I tend to cry when something means a lot. And when you see people coming together and you do it, and while we're doing it, and I don't mean to, but I cry at the last day of golf camp. I mean, you don't. I know you don't.
Well, that's another story for another time, but go ahead.
Yes, but I mean, I do, because I'm so passionate about, and the only time I cry is first when I introduce my dad, because our dad, and I know what your dad meant to you, and that, my dad's still living, and, when he would come to camp, and it's 75, 70, he was probably 72 years old when you were there and teach at golf camp. I'm watching him get in the dirt with these kids. And so I would introduce my dad. I cried every time. And then I cry when I go, you need to thank someone, because you're here, and none of y'all pay for your camp. And if you did, I need to know who you are. I'll recruit you right now. Every one of you were here because somebody behind you did something. If it was a grandparent or a parent, paid for this. And I cry every time, because anytime you see that, it just makes me fired up. And when I get fired up, I cry. I can't help it. I get tears. And so, unfortunately, I don't apologize for it, but you're kind to say it. And I think our players, in the end, the first time you do it, I think they, oh God. By the end, I think it's authentic to who I am. And so I think our players understand it when it happens. So if it happens in a big moment, it's okay.
Well, thank you for that example, by the way, because it's reminded me of how important it is to me all the time. It definitely did that year at Alabama. But one of the stories that you told me when I was there was something you haven't told very many people. I mean, it's pretty rare when you do it, but in 2011, we hosted the national championship at Karsten Creek, and you guys had one of the best teams in the country. We had one of the best teams in the country, and I could maybe see, and Georgia had one as well, but I could maybe see a collision course like we would probably be playing you guys at some point during the week. You guys played maybe the worst third round, the last round of stroke play that you probably ever coached. I mean, you guys shot over 320. And we were paired with you that day. And I remember talking to Corey Whitsitt after the round, and he said, Coach, I just got Karsten Creeked. And it was a verb. And so anyway, you didn't tell me this, and I didn't know it happened until I was in Alabama 3 years later. But can you talk about that team meeting in the hotel afterward?
Yes. There are a lot of Karsten Creek stories, that's for sure, for people. And it's hit me in the heart a few times, to be quite honest with you. God bless that place. And so we were a very good team. We were young. We had 3 true freshmen, and Bobby White, Trey Mullinax, and Corey Whitsitt. And we knew that Trey was outmatched. I mean, we just emotionally knew he couldn't handle it. We were just hoping to get one good round. But we had 2 just bad dudes from an older point of view, and knew how to do things, in Bud Colley, who's on tour, and then Hunter Hamrick. And so we hadn't finished outside the top 3, and we've been in the last group of the day of every tournament for the whole year. And we were 3rd going into the last round. But the pairing, whatever that 5-man score, Trey was shooting in the 80s every day, put us in the 4, 5, 6 with y'all, but we were in 3rd place. And so here we are. And, you dream as a coach, and, we have our own thoughts sometimes too. And we got Karsten Creek, and we shot a billion, and we only missed it by like 5 shots too. That's the part that really hurts. I mean, we had a couple of guys, if they just shoot 77 or 78, we make it. And,
Jay, can I interrupt here?
Yeah.
That's the most courageous round of golf I've ever walked with a player. Hunter Hamrick was dying.
He literally was.
And I just remember thinking, I don't think he'll survive this round. And he shot your low round of the day. I'll never forget that as long as I coach.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother story. And that was a lot of the emotion. I mean, he's in the hospital all the way to an hour before his tee time. And they're going, he may have spinal meningitis. And his parents made a decision. I said, look, you're out. And his parents go, we want him to try to play because the doctors think he can, if he can make it, whatever. And I'll go, that's a whole podcast, that kid. And like I said, a tough-minded dude. And so everything went wrong. I mean, literally at golf, Karsten Creek, Hunter had he was playing great, and then he had a weight on 9. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, and we didn't make it. And so we got in the hotel, and it was really the first time in my life that I really felt like we had a legitimate, I'm not going to say first time, but there was like a national championship mindset, if you know what I mean. It was there. We felt like it was there. And we go back, and I think we finished like 11th or 12th and all. And we just got in the hotel room, and everybody just cried. It was Bud's last tournament. He was going to turn pro. And we cried for probably 2 hours. And we just talked about how proud we were of everybody, and how hard, I can't even hardly admit, I just can't remember the emotion. And I just remember laying on a couch in front of our players, and I literally cried like a baby. I mean, I did, uncontrollably, because they were crying. And to me, in that cry, in that thing, something was being born. It didn't feel like it at the time, because this day, even when I'm talking to you about it, it still hurts. Because when you do things together, you work out, you practice, you believe, you build a trust factor with everybody, and everybody's on the same page. When things don't go well, it breaks everybody's heart. And as a coach, it probably breaks your heart more, because you feel like you could have done something here, even though you don't hit a shot, and you see their broken hearts, it breaks your heart even more. And so we were brokenhearted. We were busted. We were whatever you want to call it. I mean, it was gutted. But we laid all our emotions on the table. And in that, under that, created a fire that ain't going to happen again. Whatever that was. I mean, whatever. I don't want to feel this way because, I mean, it's just a tournament and it's golf. And so you got to be careful. I want to be careful that it wasn't life or death or anything like that. But it really was something that hurt so bad that it created inside of you something that I don't want to feel this way ever again. And after that, we played in 3 national finals. And I really believe in the fires and really that meeting afterwards in the Holiday Inn in Karsten Creek. God bless that place. There's still a piece of me that died that day, but I think there was a piece that in those fires something grew. So it was probably the hardest I've ever cried just being a golf coach.
Oh, and I think thank you for that story, Jay. Thanks for sharing, because I know there is still some pain there, but it reminds us that even in the darkest, deepest, worst times, something beautiful can come from anything. And I think that 3-year stretch you had will go down in modern golf as the greatest 3-year stretch in the history of college golf. 3 years, not just 2, but 3. Great years. You guys were amazing. And I know it was born in that hotel room for sure.
It feels like it was. And so I appreciate you letting me share the story because it really was about the kid. The hurt was really the kid's hurt. And for the first time, I think Alabama became even a tighter, badder place during those guys. And as you said, they won 5 rings after that, 2 national championships and 3 straight SECs and a very good conference. And that all started because Bobby and Corey, and then Trey eventually got back into that eventually. But Bobby and Corey were the leadership that returned from that. From those days.
That's amazing. Thank you for that story. And that again, that's being authentic. You couldn't hide those emotions. That's just who you were. But I want to ask a question because I had a couple of really good experiences there as we've been talking about. But one of them was you left town to go recruiting, and you said, "Oh, by the way, Nick Saban will be out at the Jerry Pate Golf Center tomorrow, and you got to give him a golf lesson at 2." And I thought, oh my gosh, Nick Saban, I wanted to meet him. I'd already met him, but I thought this would be a great opportunity. But I thought if his handicap gets worse after this golf lesson, they can have me taken out, erased from planet Earth, and nobody will ask any questions.
No doubt.
So Jay, you got to talk to me about Nick Saban and your relationship with him and how that's evolved.
My favorite part was telling you in the authentic nervousness you had of, oh my gosh, we're the number 1 ranked team in the nation. We're killing people. I mean, we're really kind of rolling at the time, and I don't want to, that's not braggadocious. So we should be really but when I told you had to do Nick Saban, you're like, I can get fired if he starts hooking it or top it. He's already hooking it top of it. He's a football coach. But Coach has been a tremendous friend. And by the way, after that lesson, he called me and he goes, "I finally got me some good help."
That's
he
it.
goes, I'm done with you. I've been fired more by him than Billy Barton was fired by George Steinbrenner. And so he is such a good friend, and he's so different than people perceive him to be.
I agree with that.
And as you know, and when you're there, he's just a ball coach, and he can't help it. He's just good at it. And so, gee whiz, and we should celebrate that instead of try to tear it down. But that's just me on a soapbox. But he is really a quality friend in person and all, and cares deeply for people. He just does it in a little bit more of an old school way, and that's fine. He's authentic to who he is, what we talked about earlier. But, through golf, we have become dear friends. And I got a call from him last night because, like I told you, I had to get a test. I'm waiting if my phone goes off while I'm here. That tells me if I'm positive or negative to corona.
Well, you're positive, Jay. I know you're positive.
I'm going to be positive about it, that's for sure. But, he called me last night and he goes, "Just checking in on you, Bo. Making sure," and I won't say exactly what he said because, it is a podcast and it goes out. But he did. He wanted to check in. He goes, "I always want to make sure you're feeling okay." And, and he wanted to check in with me. That's who he is. And so, but it's been an incredible, fun time with him. Now, I will tell you this: as you found out, you can't just give him bunk. You better give him the goods. You better give him authentic. You better give him correct information, because if it doesn't work, you're getting ready to get a face mask full. I'm just letting you know. And so it's been fun to get to know him. We have a lot. We share a lot in common. Our dads, like you, his love of coaching started with his dad. His dad was a country store owner, and all the coal mine. They lived in a coal mining town, and he owned the country store in the coal mining town. And so while all the coal miners were there, he took all the kids and they played pickup football, baseball. And so that's how he saw it. And Nick will tell you to this day, he goes, I coach because my dad coached. And I coached the way I coached because of the way my dad coached. And so I think it's why when even your short time here, you connected. So, because he still asks about you all the time, believe it or not. And our times connected because of our dads. And it's funny how that works a little bit, because when the values and how you do things and how you see things from family drop down from our fathers really is the connection I have with him, and I know you had with him, and probably, like we said, me and you had with each other.
Well, when I got to Tuscaloosa, the very first thing you did on campus, you marched me right into his office. And he said, great to meet you. It's about time we got a good golf coach here at Alabama. He said, now come in here, Coach McGraw. I want to show you something. And we walk in, and I thought he was going to show me all these national championships, all of this, the rings, all that. And he passed all that and went over to this little framed dollar bill, or $5 bill.
$5, yeah.
You had to sign it because he beat you in a round of golf, and he made you sign that $5 bill. It's his most prized possession.
Yeah, it literally sits on his championship shelving. It's right there and all this. And I'm like, it's a memento to him. He goes, I just want you to remember every day you come to see me that I beat your butt. That's not what he said, but he goes, I beat your butt. So there you go.
Well, I did enjoy my time in Alabama for a million reasons, as we've talked about, but meeting Nick Saban and meeting him as just a man who was a golf nerd, by the way. He's a golf nerd all the way. And just getting to see him, close up. He would come out and practice, and the beauty of it was you had already coached your guys up. Hey, don't bug him. Let him bring you into the conversation. And so he felt comfortable being there, and I'm sure it's still the same way today.
It is. It is. And he called me, he and Justin have become really tight through this time and whatever, all our players. So he calls, why aren't they doing this? And why aren't they doing, I go, Coach, it's golf. Sometimes Olympia Fields is hard or whatever. And I'm still trying to teach him that golf's not football where you can tackle somebody. Sometimes somebody's just really good at it. And you just, like Dustin Johnson shoots 30 under. You can't tackle him going down the 15th fairway and break a few clubs. I mean, you just have to grin and bear it. But it's been fun to see him interact with our guys. And like I said, they get to this day, I still bring our guys over. Why don't you help him? Because I really want them to get involved with him as a person, because he's so valuable in how he sees things and how he talks. When they help him, I think he's teaching them for them down the road too, for their own self, which has been really fun to see. Yeah. It's a great asset.
That's great. Well, I know he's a great asset for the University of Alabama, and it's good to hear that he's still been such a good tool, resource for you as a coach. I think that's great, and a good friend.
It has. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, to me, one of the other stories, you mentioned Trey Mullinex earlier, and we haven't talked much about him, but Trey was just like an amazingly talented guy. But I want to know exactly when you discovered Trey, because it's like, I know how you recruited Bobby Wyatt very well, and you beat me to get Corey Whitsett. I understand the recruiting process, but recruiting Trey Mullinex has got to be a little bit different.
It is, and it's special to me too, and it's why Trey and I think I have such a special bond. Trey and I are still very close. Talk to him a lot during each week and pull for him. He was just a camper, kind of a kid who had still not done his up, but he was about 15 years old, but he was already probably 6 foot. He's well over 6'4" now, but big old chunky kid, at 6 foot tall, and we do camp, and I break him up in the fours. And so Trey, I'd heard about him. I'd heard through people that this kid was you hear it all the time. And I just called, okay, here we go, whatever. And he was on my dad's intramural team. We break him up into teams, and in Dad's team, but it was always called the pros. And so, and Jackson was a young kid at the time. He was probably only about 13 years old, which was cool. And so Jackson was on the team, and I break them up. You know, there's an older kid, 2 middle kids, and a young kid. So everybody interacts and how we do camp and all. And so I get a phone call from my dad. Man, I want you to know my dad doesn't use a cell phone. I bet he hasn't made more than 7 calls in his life on a cell phone. I mean, it's like yours. It's plugged into the wall, or I mean, it's plugged into his phone. It's never been less than 98% charge. And so and so he calls me, and I go, Dad? And I'm like, oh, Lord, there's something. I literally thought he's, he's sick or something's happened. Somebody got hit by a ball, all the things that you worry about at camp. You know, you don't ever sleep at camp. He goes, son, if you like it long and straight, you better get your butt down here to number 3, because I've got some kid who can hit it long and straight. Just drove the second green with a 2-iron. And I went, okay, Dad. And so I brought out the Gatorade. You know, I kind of do the Gatorade. And it was I was actually going to go be Dad and go see Jackson hit a shot or 2. I was hoping he was trying to turn him into the next Jack Nicklaus at the time. But you know how that goes. And so I went down there, and there's Trey Mullinax. So by the time I got to him, they're on 5, and he hits a driver, and it's the highest draw you ever saw in your life. And I went, okay. So we really started recruiting Trey from that phone call. I had never seen him hit a shot until the tee shot on 5. And my dad just told me, he said, son, I don't know much about golf, which was a total lie. He goes, but if I was you, there's something special about this kid. And he, and just like you with your dad, if we would listen to our dads more often, we would have gotten less trouble all through life, and better things would happen. And I'm thankful that my dad took the time to call, because Trey was probably one of the great assets, and we do not win 2 national championships without him. And I don't have a tremendous friend in the rest of my life without him.
Yeah, Trey, you told me early in that year, you said, I'm going to have you walk with Trey. Let's just see if a different personality, same message, but a different way, might help. I loved my year with Trey Mullinax. It was so much fun. But the lasting image I'll have as long as I coach is standing in the 17th fairway at Prairie Dunes. And we see you and Trey up on the green, and he makes about a 30-footer downhill left to right eagle putt. And you hopped up into his arms like a spider monkey. Funniest thing I've ever seen. But that image is etched indelibly upon my brain. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've talked about my emotion, and just the deep inside, it's always in me. Even in our conversation now, there's a nervous energy that I've had a hard time my whole life controlling. And so I was scared to death because Trey, I have so many great stories with Trey, and I know you do and all that. That putt, if you just don't understand, is you do, because you've been at Prairie Dunes, he could have putted that thing off the green. I'm just letting you know. He was 1 up, and I'm going, he could putt this off the green. And I told Trey, I said, Trey, we are not trying to make this putt. I said, we're going to try to make this putt, actually. I said, but we're going to play it so far higher than you ever have dared. He goes, well, Coach, you think I should play it? How you talk. You think I should play it about a foot out? I'm going, no, we're playing this thing. We're going out here. He goes, really? And so the whole time I'm down there on the bottom of the green, there's 2 things going through my mind going, golly, we can win the national championship. And then I'm going, and he can put it off the green. And so I'm down there on the bottom of the green. I'm way down there, because that green is so down there. And so I'm going, there's a part of me that I think is unconsciously as a coach was really preparing for the chip after it went past the hole from down there. I was already starting to try to get the angles from down there. And so, you have those things in your head and, yell it. And when I saw the ball drop, I just literally lost it. I mean, I just got so excited for him, and I jumped up, and I just ran into his arms and like a spider monkey. But a funny story about that, though, let me go backwards a little bit, because this is my favorite thing about the difference between me and you. Now, dadgummit, if we're going to get into it, let's get into it. We talked about it. Now, you literally walked on a bag of one of the greatest match play matches in the history of the USGA, any match play of the world. The USGA has called me on that and talked to you about that, and they still think it's a record. I think there were 22, 23 threes in that match.
Yes.
And they've looked in the history books, and they haven't found a match like that anywhere, USAMs, Walker Cups, whatever you want to call. And so you were in the match of the matches, And, Robbie Shelton is got about a 10-footer, I think. Is that about right?
It's a little longer than about 12 to 14 feet right in there. 12
to 14 feet. And so he's one up, and Zach Olson, who you recruited, who is a great young man who I recruited. Don't think I get everybody. You took him from me.
Hold on. I'm 1-6 against you, so that's fine. I did get Zach.
That's fine. But that cat, I wanted him. He's such a great young man. That being said, we go back. So Zach, who I know is special to you, and Robbie are going through this match of matches. And, I think Robbie shot 63 that day and Zach shot 64 that day, if I'm not mistaken, at Prairie Dunes, which is stupid. And so this match is going back and forth, and Robbie is one up. And I think that Zach has hit it in there about 5 or 6 feet. And then Shelton's got about a 12-footer. If he doesn't, Zach can make it and go to extra holes. And so everything's in doubt. I mean, it's the highest of emotion. It's the national championship, Mike. We're playing for the title, buddy. We're playing against Orange. I mean, we're doing everything. I mean, come on. And Mike and you and him read that putt, and he poured that thing. I mean, it would have gone in a thimble.
Yep.
And my favorite thing is, you just talked about my reaction to Trey. Yours was you just walked over there and just put the flag in, and nice round. I thought I was at Indian Hills playing a $2 Nassau. I'm going, this is crazy. What are y'all doing? And I know inside you were jumping. And so one of my favorite stories, and sorry I get long-winded, they're going to probably cut me off here, but was after we came home. It's still one of the special moments in my life is when you and Pam came over for a celebratory night, and we had taped it. We hadn't seen it yet. And we got a bottle of wine out together, and we just sat together, and we all just drank a glass of wine and watched the telecast. And then we saw that over, and I just kept rewinding it. I'm going, look at you. Where are you, a robot?
Yeah, I'll explain that for you right here, right now, okay?
Yes.
I'd already been there. I knew how to handle it. I acted like I knew what I was doing.
I know it, and you were better. I understand that, but so had I. We had won the year before.
I know.
And my favorite part of the whole thing is Pam's going, run it back, because we would go back and forth and play the two, and because our biggest thing was how different we really were, but how our bonds were so close. I said, here we go, let's go. And the biggest thing, and I don't, people listening, is you remember the old cartoon, Spike's my friend, Spike, yeah. The big old bulldog would walk, and the little Chihuahua dog is bouncing over and going, Spike's my friend, Spike's the toughest guy, going back and forth. That was me, and you were Spike. Yeah, okay, whatever. And so we always talked about that, and Pam had the biggest kick going because she had not seen it and not put it in. No, she had seen it, but hadn't put that in perspective. And we just kept rewinding, and I have never laughed. I think it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were still laughing. I bet we watched it 25 times. So it was a great thing. So we went a long way away from Trey Mullinax. I apologize.
Well, but I think that speaks to our personalities being so different. We even reacted to a national championship differently. And trust me, I was just as excited as you. I guess I don't know how to show it like you do. But
I would rather be you than me, but go ahead.
No, you wouldn't. But
yes.
I would say this. The thing that connects you and I better than anything that we've talked about so far, even our fathers, is our belief and our faith in Jesus Christ. So we both have been advisory board members of the College Golf Fellowship Ministry for many, many years. So let's just talk about that for a second.
Yeah, that was the foundation. I appreciate you saying that. It was the foundation of our friendship. You were this big-time coach at Oklahoma State, and I was just a little dinky guy at Augusta State, and then at my beginning years at Alabama trying to do something, and you were winning, and you were, I looked up to you, but you were kind of out, you were like way ahead of me in my mind, and I don't mean that in a bad or good way, it was just a fact, but our friendship started in hotel lobbies or whatever we were, talking about the ministry of College Golf Fellowship. And that's my favorite thing. You went from this really, I don't want to use the word iconic, that may be overshooting it a little bit, but this big time coach with winning, and you won a national championship, what, in 06, 07? I can't remember which one it was. 06, and we were still just pretty average at Alabama. We were starting to get kind of better, but you were the top of the top. You were this guy, but I got to meet Mike McGraw, the man, and I already look up to people who do things well. But I got to meet Mike McGraw, the man, while I was still what I would call looking up to you just trying to build it, in all this. And you were at the top of the heap is one of the top coaches in all of college golf. And I got to meet you in those settings. And I was like, man, what a dude, and all the things that I admire about you, really, you're exactly right. Our friendship started there. It's amazing. And so I'm thankful for the Lord to do that. I'm thankful how, when you were here, that was still, I love that when I would come to work 3 or 4 hours after you, and you would maybe go get a cup of coffee, your Bible's open by your computer. I never mentioned things like that and all. And I love that it's who you are. It's what makes you so special to me is, I think what makes you a good husband. I think it what makes you a good coach. It's what makes you a great friend is that, your relationship with Jesus.
Well, I feel the same. It's reciprocal. There's no question about it. So I'm glad we have that together, and we'll have that for eternity.
Yes.
So, we've talked about a lot of different things here today, and all really good down memory lane. Just amazing, Jay. And you're such a great storyteller. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for, just your commitment to changing lives, and just to your commitment to being an example for other coaches, not just me, but other coaches in this profession. So thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast today. It's been amazing. But before you get off here, I've got a speed round for you.
I'm ready for the speed round. I'm pretty slow.
Sure?
Let's go.
Okay, now, because you're pretty speedy, so we'll see if you can handle the speed round. And you don't get a lot of time to answer these, so you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Best putter you've ever coached?
Michael Thompson.
Wow, I like that.
That guy, we called him Slick, and every time he made one, he just made another Slick. Go ahead.
That's it. Longest driver you've ever coached?
That's Stroby, Scott Strohmeyer. He makes Cameron Champ look like a dinker.
Best practical joker?
That's Justin. No, JT. Justin, that's what authentic to who he is. That's the reason I hope he stays that way, because the tour can be, that bubble can get small, but he is a great practical joker.
All right, you got to choose Alabama football game or one of Lauren's ball games, your daughter.
Oh, that's not even close. I'm going to Lala's games. Let me tell you what, I've almost been kicked out. It's been great, and I never use it. I don't even get on them. I just keep working the officials to try to get one call, and they said, if you keep working me, we're throwing you out of here. I'm like, I just need one call from you tonight.
All right, good. I like that answer. World's fastest ice cream eater?
Let me think. Mike McGraw.
Thank you. That was leading.
I'll do one real quick story. I know it's a speed round. Real quick. To give you context to that, we're on our first big recruiting trip. We're going out to up to Marta's camp to do USAM, and we find a Dairy Queen out in the middle of some western-looking town. It was so cool. And we go through the line, and I order behind you. Of course, I paid. You got this. I'm the assistant coach. You're the head coach. I got to pay. And so I said, okay, I got it. That being said, you ordered 2. He goes, I don't know what you want to call it. I want you to make as much ice cream as you can without it falling over. That's exactly how you ordered it. There's no scoops at Dairy Queen. It's just one of those machines. And the guy made one, I swear to you, was at least 10 inches tall. I mean, it was so big. I was like, whatever. And he handed it to you. And it was like a movie, and there was something happening. By the time he turned, because you ordered 2, and first the guy thought you were getting it for your wife or somebody or whatever. By the time he fixed the next 10-inch ice cream cone, he had turned it, handed it to you. You had just finished the last bit of the first one. And I think the guy looked at you like you were a Marvel copy. Like, It's Ice Cream Man. Unbelievable. To this day, it's still one of the great moments I've ever seen in athletic history. I want you to know it's still one of the most athletic moments I've ever seen. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, Joey Chestnut, the hot dog eater, and we're on the same level when it comes to ice cream. Same thing.
Yes, I agree. Sorry for the long answer in a short round. Go ahead.
Worries. Favorite pastime outside of golf?
Oh, I do love Alabama football.
There you go. Very good. Blades versus cavity back irons?
Well, for me personally, it's cavity back irons because if I hit blades, I wouldn't hit it all the toe shots would go in the water. So for me, I'm going to go with cavity back.
All right. Ben Hogan or Tiger Woods?
Wow. I think 2 years ago, I would have said Ben Hogan, but I was fortunate enough to walk around 9 holes when I was walking with Trey with Tiger Woods, and to see what he did in that 9 holes, I'm going to call it a tie. I will say they're the 2 greatest iron players of all time. It's not even close.
All right, 2 weeks in a row, we've been 30 under par and 4 under par. Which do you prefer?
I like that we have both, but I love 4 under par.
Okay, beautiful. And last question, most surprising thing you learned about me, not from me, but about me during our year together?
Wow. When I come to work, your shoes weren't on. You walk around in your socks all the time.
I wish you could see it because I don't have any shoes on right now either.
There's no doubt. And I bet you they're white tube socks too. That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jay, listen, this has been such a pleasure just to kind of meander down memory lane with you, but just to kind of reconnect and keep that connection solid. You've been an amazing guest today on this podcast.
Mike, thanks for having me. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of our friendship. And man, I feel like if I walked outside and you were going to be in the office right beside me. It was a fun day. Thanks for letting me reminisce with you. I'm excited. We're going to play fall golf. Hopefully, I'll see you in the spring sometime.
Love to see you in the spring, Jay. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Again, I want to say a big thank you to Jay Seawell for coming on the podcast today. You know, as I stated earlier, and as you heard in the podcast, he's a very dear friend of mine, an amazing coach, extremely successful, and one of the most inspirational coaches I've ever been around. I'm just thankful Jay came on the podcast today to record, but I'm also more thankful for the friendship he's shown me through the years, and so just for the example he's been for myself and all of our colleagues in collegiate golf. He's just an amazing guy, and I certainly appreciate his contributions to the game.